This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Episode 39, I think. I'm not so sure. Anyway, regular listeners of the show will know that I usually speak to my very boring friend, Dan the Man. But Dan the Man is no more. Well, for today. That makes it sound like he's dead. He's definitely not dead. He's just busy for today. He'll be back on Monday. But I speak to a much more interesting guest today. I speak to Luke from Luke's English podcast. And if anyone doesn't know, he is pretty much the king of learning English podcasts. So it is obviously a great honour for me to have him on the show. He is also much more interesting than Dan the Man, much more enthusiastic, because Dan the Man normally says things like, yeah. And Luke is also much funnier than Dan the Man. So today is a great show. Anyway, Luke is an English teacher, similar to me, but he is more qualified. So I thought we could speak about, how to learn English, something like this. But I've done podcasts like that in the past, and everyone knows the answer to that anyway, which is simply practice, practice, practice. And you can practice by listening to podcasts like this. So Luke is a funny guy, so I thought I would speak to him about a funny topic, which is exactly what we do. We speak about awkward situations, and if you don't know what the word awkward means, don't worry, because we explain that in the show. So, regular listeners will also know that during the show, when some rock and roll vocabulary comes up, I usually stop and explain the meaning. I do that a little bit in today's show, but I was having too much fun and sometimes I forgot. So at the end of the show, I go through all of the rock and roll vocabulary, even the stuff I forgot to mention during the show. And remember, you can then find it all at rockandrollenglish.com. Anyway, I will stop talking now and let you listen to Luke, who is much more interesting than me. So have fun listening, and I will speak to you again at the end of the show. So, hello Luke, and welcome to Rock and Roll English.
Hello Martin, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. This is lots of fun here at Rock and Roll English.
Oh yeah, if things are very rock and roll here, I must warn you very early on, okay?
That's okay, I'm more than prepared for a bit of rock and roll.
Okay.
I welcome any rock and roll in my life.
We all do.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. But thank you for coming on. It is a real pleasure because, I mentioned a little bit in the introduction, Luke has an extremely successful and popular podcast, much better than this podcast, if I can say. But I also read it has been downloaded 25 million times. Is that correct?
Yes, that's definitely correct. In fact, it's more than that, I think, because that's when I started counting around about November 2011, and I started the podcast in April 2009. So I think it's probably more than that, and because all those years back in the day when I was doing this, and I don't have all that data anymore, but it's about 25 million at least. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
That
Amazing.
is crazy. Have the Beatles
sold
that many records or been downloaded that many times?
Oh, I'm certain they have. Yeah, I mean, if you just look on Spotify, which is in fact what I'm doing right now, and you look at the Beatles, I'm sure. Well, I can't be bothered to do it, but if you check Spotify for the Beatles, they've been downloaded way more times than me.
Oh, really? Because for a minute, I thought you were more famous than the Beatles. Anyway, so you are also a stand-up comedian. Is this correct? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, true.
Wow, that takes a lot of bottle. And by the way, bottle means, in very English slang, means courage.
Right.
How often do you do that?
As often as I can, really. Probably about once a week, which isn't really enough. If you're a serious stand-up, you have to be going up on stage 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to really get the sort of keep the comedy muscle working, and to kind of stay fresh. It's all about kind of, it's a bit like being a tennis player or something. You've got to stay match fit. So that
really?
means that, yeah, definitely. It's all about sort of getting to a certain level of comedy fitness and then maintaining it by going up on stage a lot and just sort of staying in the zone all the time. So once a week is good, but it's still not quite enough. It's not the number one thing that I'm doing. So that's
okay.
why.
Yeah, well, I imagine with the podcast you have a lot of work to do. But I just thought about this because you live in France. So do you do stand up in French or in English?
I do stand up in English, and there is a small stand up comedy scene here in English with a few people that perform different types of shows. There are one-man shows, which seem to be the most normal, most common type of comedy show here in France, that you get one performer who does a sort of solo show for about an hour. So there's a few of those in English, including people like my friend Paul Taylor, who does this TV show called, I don't know if I can say the name, because it's a bit rude.
The rude words are fine on rock and roll English. It's the rock and
roll podcast,
exactly.
Isn't it? Rock and roll English. So, of course, rude words are more than appropriate. Well, the show's called What the Fuck France.
Nice.
And, of course, as you imagine, it's all about the kind of the whole those moments when you go, what the fuck? Which I'm, you could equally make the same thing about Italy or about England.
Of course.
But in this case, it's about France. And Paul is a comedian who's English, but he speaks French like a native. And so he does stand up about that in his one-man show and on his TV show. And there's a few others. And there's also these kind of plateau shows, they call them, which is where you have like 4 or 5 comedians on, one by one, doing about 10 or 15 minutes each. And so I tend to do those shows. I used to do a 2-man show with Paul where I did half an hour and he did half an hour. But these days I'm just sort of doing 10 to 15 minute spots at other shows.
Oh, okay. But your comedy fitness is good, from what I understand. And,
yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think it's certainly good enough for this podcast because we love a bit of comedy on here and a bit of fun, much like your podcast delivered.
Yeah.
We try, obviously, to do it in a fun way. So we're going to talk about sort of fun, strange topic about, awkwardness. So to be more specific, how to deal with awkward situations or how to manage them. But first question, what does awkward mean? I have some situations for you here, Luke, and I want you to give me, to tell me if this is awkward or embarrassing, because they are very similar words.
Yeah. Okay. Awkward. Isn't it possible for them both to happen at the same time?
Yeah, it could be. So let me give you this example and you tell me, is this awkward or embarrassing? Okay.
Yeah.
You go to a party and then...
Awkward.
Well,
sorry. It's already awkward.
Depending on the type of person you are, it could be.
Oh God, where do I stand? Can I have a drink? I don't know anyone. Oh God.
Yes, that was a perfect example of awkward. You go to a party, you don't know anyone. But this situation, you go to a party and your ex-girlfriend is there. Is that awkward or embarrassing?
Oh, that's awkward.
That is awkward.
Oh
exactly.
My God, yeah. I mean, already the party is awkward enough because, I'm not very comfortable or relaxed at parties. I don't know if it's... No, not really. Not so much anymore. These days I'm standing around and if I don't have a drink, then I'm like, oh God, what do I do with my... what am I going to do with my hands?
I 100% agree with you with that.
Yes. But so my ex-girlfriend is at the party.
Yeah, so you go to the party and your ex-girlfriend is there. So
yeah, that's really awkward.
Really awkward. So yeah, awkward is... It's difficult to describe. It's almost like embarrassing, but somewhere in there, just a difficult atmosphere that you can almost feel from just standing there.
Yeah, exactly.
So another situation. So you are teaching a lesson, so as an English teacher.
Okay. In
front of a class, and you are sitting on a chair and you fall off the chair. Is that awkward or embarrassing?
Well, it's definitely embarrassing for me.
Exactly. Okay, so I've got some awkward situations now because we need to know how to deal with these. Remember, how to manage them. What can we do when we are in this awkward situation, okay?
Yeah.
So you say goodbye to someone and then you realise you're walking in the same direction. What do you do?
Oh my God. Can I have two options?
Oh, well, you can do what you want. We are looking for information for how to deal with these, because we want to avoid these situations. So what can we do?
Okay. I've got three ways of dealing with this situation, okay?
Okay.
The situation, the first one is the one that I would like to do, but which I definitely shouldn't do. And that is that, I see the person and I say, look, we've already said goodbye. I think we both agreed that was the end of this bit of social interaction. We now both find ourselves walking in the same direction. But I think that we can both be adults about this and just agree that even though we are going to be walking along the same bit of road, that we don't talk to each other.
I like that. I like that a lot.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And the person would go, yeah, all right then. But you can't do that, obviously, because the rules of everything dictate you can't just do that. So the other option is you go, oh, I see you're walking in the same direction as me. Why don't we spend the rest of our lives together? That, which is hideous.
Yeah, I'm less keen on that one. So less interested, that is. I'm less keen, yeah.
Especially since you've just, I guess, you've been at a party with this person or something, and you've already rinsed all of the small talk that you could have done. You've been through what do you do, how do you know Martin, blah, blah, blah. You've done all of that stuff, and then you find yourselves with a 45-minute tube journey together, and then it's just like, no, either you decide to make that person a part of your life, or you basically eject yourself in desperation. Yeah, which is option 3.
Yeah, that option 3 is often what I do in this situation. When I realise we are walking in the same direction, I will always change my direction and walk in the wrong direction just to avoid this awkward situation. Because, these awkward situations for me, they are difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there is another option, which is where you just jump into a lake. It's a way of...
There's always that option. Always that option. Yeah.
Obviously, you have to be near a lake for that to work.
Yeah.
And any body of water will do. Yeah. A river, a pond.
That's always the emergency one. I think for all of these situations, we have the emergency jump into a lake, which is always good. Yeah. Okay, so we've established that one. So the next one. I think you have the same problem in France here. So in Italy, we definitely have this of when you greet people. So when you say hello, there is like the law of kissing. So for the difficult thing for me, because I lived in Rome, and for there it was 2 kisses for the girls, 2 kisses for the boys. That was fine. It was clear. But here in Sicily, very strangely, it's 2 kisses for a boy, like boy to boy, but only 1 sort of boy to girl. So it can cause difficulty because some of the girls go for 2 kisses. So you think, look, is it 2 or is it 1?
Which girls? The confused ones?
Yeah, they just decide. There are no rules. I like to have rules. I think the government really should publish something of the number of kisses you need, and they need to say, for example, you must have met this person 3 times before you go for the kiss.
Yeah, there needs to be like a little leaflet.
Yeah, exactly, where the rules are clear. Somebody actually told me, one of my French friends, that there is a small village in France where they kiss each other 5 times.
Oh, well, a lot of strange things happen in small villages in France, Martin.
I mean, 5. I've got things to do. I can't be kissing someone 5 times.
Well, that's the thing. If in some of these small villages, they really don't have anything else to do.
So they just kiss each other all day.
That's all they're doing. Don't go to these places.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Because similar to this, actually, in Italy, when I see someone, maybe I bump into someone in the street. So rock and roll vocabulary there. I meet someone that I'm not expecting to see on the street. So I say hello. I do the 2 kisses if it's a boy. And say like, hi, how are you? And the conversation maybe only lasts 1 minute, 2 minutes. And then I think, do I need to do the 2 kisses again to say goodbye? Because we only did that 1 minute ago. Yeah. And it's awkward because then sometimes I go for a handshake and he comes for a kiss, and then it's a combination of
Oh God, yeah, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so, what is the situation in France with the kisses?
Oh, it's very very much the same. There are different rules for different regions. In France, they do 2 kisses starting from the right. So you put your right cheek against the other person's right cheek. That it's 2 kisses for everyone, whether they're boys or girls. Now, I don't know where all your listeners are, but there will be some people listening to this, I guarantee, who are going, "Oh my God, boys kiss each other in these countries." There's bound to be someone out there who's horrified by that idea. And it's a bit weird from England because we don't do that in the UK.
It was strange for me at the beginning. I remember thinking, oh, does that really happen? I remember seeing it in films, but thinking, surely they don't actually do that. But now I must admit, I like it. In fact, when I go home, I want to kiss my friends and they say, what the hell are you doing?
Right. But yes, it's pretty normal for boys to kiss each other when they know each other very well. And you know that you've got to another level in a friendship when your male friend kisses you when you meet each other, and it's kind of like, oh, I see, we've become firm friends now.
Yeah, that's like the line of once you kiss, then you've officially moved into the region of good friends.
Right, exactly. I feel like we could maybe go and share a glass of red wine, maybe a plate of cheese. We could play a game of pétanque somewhere, maybe. We could go to the cinema and discuss the merits of the film. It's that level in France where you're like, oh, I see, we could...
it could be best friends, yeah.
We could become friends. This could be the start of something beautiful, But yeah, it seems to be the same kind of issue that you have, and it's very strange for me. Also, I'm no good at it. I'm extremely awkward as a person, and even as an English person, I'm quite awkward. And I come to France where everyone's a lot more relaxed, and there's a lot more physical contact going on, and I just handle it very badly. Yeah. Girls are coming up to me to give me the la bise, and we call it la bise in France.
Oh, okay.
Girls are coming up to give me la bise, and I'm sort of like putting my arm around the shoulder to go for a hug, and it becomes this half hug, half bise with a bit of handshake. It's just horrible. Yeah. And when I first came here, I was bising too hard. I was like, bam!
Yeah, I had a similar thing with, as I said, sometimes here they only give 1 kiss. So I was going for 2. I gave the first, clearly moved for the second, at which point she was talking to somebody else, and I was just there kissing the air, basically.
Right.
So
yeah, that's the other thing. You're supposed to kiss the air, not actually put your lips against the person's cheek.
Oh yeah.
You just put your. It's really, really weird when you think about it. You're just putting your cheek against the other person's cheek and then kissing the air next to their face, and you have to go as well. You have to make the sound. To be honest, this whole subject, Martin, has been covered by my friend Paul in one of his videos.
Really? What was it? What the fuck is France?
What the fuck, France? That's the name of the show. But this is before he did that. He did this video a couple of years ago called La Bise, and it's all about the whole culture of La Bise in France. And he covers the whole subject from top to bottom.
I'll have to watch that. I mean, maybe make something similar for Italy.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah.
So in that video, Paul's solution to this, and basically he goes through all the nightmare scenario, which is that, let's say it's your birthday and you arrive and everyone's bought you a gift and you have to la bise every single person when you arrive. You have to bise them when you take a drink, and you have to bise them when you open the present. And if it's New Year's Eve, you have to bise again when it strikes 12, and then you've got to bise again when you leave. And not at any point do you get the opportunity to actually drink anything. And it's a nightmare.
That's a lot of beesing. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And the solution that Paul discovered was that when you arrive at the party, you announce to the entire room that you're sick, that you're ill, you've got a cold, and then you just go straight to the fridge and get your drink.
Oh, I like it. That's a good solution. Okay, so we've now got another solution for that one. We've got another awkward situation here, which again happens to me quite a lot. So I'm walking down the street and I don't really know where to go. I don't really want to look at my phone, so I just ask someone. But I've got an idea of the sort of direction.
Yeah.
And then this person tells me the complete opposite direction, which I know is not true.
Yes.
But now I think, do I have to follow his direction because he's looking at me? Or do I just walk in the direction which I think is right and make him feel stupid because I haven't listened? What do I do, Luke?
I've got two options.
Jump in the lake.
For you.
Jump in the lake.
That's option 3. Just jump in a lake. The first option is where you try and establish the credentials of the person that's giving you the directions. So you'd say, excuse me, I'm looking for the bank, please. Can you tell me where it is? And they go, yeah, it's just 2 blocks down there on the left. And you go, just before I follow those instructions, can you just tell me, like, are you from round here? Are you a resident of the area? Can I see some identification? Maybe a passport? I need some verification of those claims before, I obviously go out of my way. So I would do that. I'd check the credentials of the person first. Or if I really felt like they were pointing me in the wrong direction, I would probably say something along the lines of, I'd say, look, I know I'm not from round here. I know I have just asked you for directions, but, I did look at a map earlier on. I've got a vague sense of where the bank is. What you just said is, totally contrary to what I'd been led to believe previously. So I'm calling bullshit on those directions you just gave me, okay?
I mean, that, like stand-up comedy, I think takes a lot of bottles, a lot of courage to say that to somebody you don't know, to basically say, you are talking rubbish and I'm not listening to you. But
honestly, I think that the thing that I would genuinely do is I'd say, excuse me, can you tell me where the bank is? And they go, yeah, it's just down there on the left. And I go, okay, thanks. And then I'd probably walk off slowly in that direction, looking at my phone, and then hang back as if I've just got an important email. Oh, I'll just stand here for a little bit, like making sure the guy walks away, and then I'll just, not too quickly, but I'll go in the direction I thought I should have gone in before. So without him noticing, and I'll just sort of slide off.
Yeah, exactly. I've been in that situation before, and then I walk in the wrong direction. As you say, I wait, and then I feel like I'm hiding for him. Hiding from him. Sorry, like I'm hiding from the police. And I think all I wanted was a direction, and now I'm hiding behind a building, like someone's trying to capture me. So
what you could do at that point is put on some like 70s music, some kind of like music from some kind of police movie, and wound down, that kind of stuff, and then you could pretend that you're hiding from the police. It would make it far more interesting and exciting for you.
That would. Okay, so thanks again for another solution we have.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the next one again has happened to me. I've been on the receiving end of this, and also unfortunately in like the
other end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the opposite. So you're talking, and then accidentally a piece of sort of spit, which remember is like the liquid from your mouth, comes out and clearly hits the other person. Do you mention it, or do you just continue with the conversation like nothing happened? Because it's too awkward to say, oh, I know I just spat on you there. Just wipe that off and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And then we'll continue this conversation. I mean, that's difficult. So what can we do?
You got 3 options. 4.
Jump in the lake, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, that's the 4th one. But the first option is where you just carry on as if nothing's happened and you just keep a totally straight face. Blah, 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 just fine. Yeah, I've got a podcast. It's called Luke's English Podcast.
The P's are dangerous, aren't they? The P's are dangerous.
Yeah. TH sounds. Yeah. I usually record them on Thursdays. Yeah. So I would just carry on. That's option 1. And just wait and see how long it takes the person to wipe it off while the conversation's still going.
That's the other awkward part, when you clearly see them wipe it off and you think, oh.
Yeah, but you just carry on regardless. You just keep telling them about your podcast, which comes out on Thursdays. You could just keep doing that and just brazenly push through without not give anything away. Or option 2 is where you take the polite route, which is equally awkward, and you say, oh, I'm terribly sorry, I think I just spat in your face then when I said podcast. And I'll just say, so it's all right, I've got it, don't worry, I've got a tissue here, and you get like a used tissue out of your pocket.
Yeah.
It's no problem, I'll just wipe it off there. No, you're fine, it's fine. I know I don't like physical contact either, it's fine. But anyway, there you go. It's all, let's move on. What were we talking about? So that's option 2. And option 3 is that you just suddenly just punch the person in the face.
Even if you spat on him?
Yeah. Just panic and just punch them in the face and then run off. That's option 3. I don't recommend it. But it's the sort of thing where, just to hide the embarrassment of the fact that you've just spat in the person's face, you cover it up with a much worse act.
I suppose because then the other person will talk about the punch more than the spit.
Yeah.
So you've taken the attention away from the spitting.
Exactly. She'll forget, or he will forget about the spit completely.
Yeah.
I say she. I mean, I don't do this if it's a woman. Please don't do that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
If it's a guy, then go ahead. But if
violence is totally fine.
Children, women, don't do that. Old people, don't.
Yeah.
I would opt for option 2 in most of the circumstances. I think that's probably the nicest thing to do. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I've just spat in your face. That wasn't intentional. But I think that we know each other well enough for this not to be a problem. I'll just wipe it away and we're good.
Do you know each other well enough?
I don't know. Well, I would have thought that after that you would know each other well enough.
After that, you can do that bise, I suppose, and start kissing.
Or even more. Even more possible. It could be the beginning of something beautiful.
Yeah. So we've come sort of full circle here. So the solution of the kissing thing as well is spit in their face, and then you can kiss them. So
exactly.
So that's perfect. So I actually think that's a good note to end the podcast on here, because now we've cleared up all of these difficult, awkward situations. So if anyone is ever in one of these now, they know what to do.
Yes, exactly. Or just jump in a lake.
Or always jump in the lake. So yeah, thanks very much for your time, Luke. Where can people find you if they want to listen? They'll definitely listen to your podcast.
Oh, cool.
But, where can they find you?
They can find me on the internet.
What is that?
Yeah, the internet. Have you heard about it? It's amazing. It's brilliant. Anyway, you can just Google Luke's English Podcast, and you'll find it like that. Or my website is teacherluke.co.uk. As you will be aware if you ever listen to the podcast, because that's how every episode begins. You're listening to Luke's English Podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk. So just do that if you want to. If you want to, you can find it on iTunes as well and listen there if you like. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much for your time, Luke. It has been a pleasure. We hope to hear from you soon.
Yes, you too. Thanks so much for inviting me on, Martin. It's been lots of fun. And I hope that your listeners don't mind the nonsense that I've been talking about, like jumping into a lake and punching someone in the face. Don't do any of that. Be nice to each other. That's the best option.
Be nice and just suffer the awkwardness. It's the best solution. Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thanks very much.
Thanks,
and we'll
Martin.
See you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I hope I have cleared up any doubts you had about the vocabulary. Remember, you can go to rockandrollenglish.com to see it all written down and do a crazy quiz with the vocabulary. You know, what more do you want? Anyway, thanks for listening to the show. If you have any questions or anything like that about the vocabulary, just send me a message. I'm always happy to help. And have a great weekend. Avoid awkward situations at all costs. And keep on rocking.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.